Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we're here for another episode of Into the Mind. I'm your host, Marlon Johnson, and today we are hanging out with my guest, JB Bolvadin, and I'm super excited about this because normally, you all know, I know my guest really well. I usually have a long-lasting relationship with them. However, today is actually my first day meeting JB in person. He's local here to Long Island. He's doing a lot of amazing things. He's teaching he's teaching sales and training to real estate agents across the country. He hosted the Long Island Real Estate Revolution, which was a massive turnout, over 9,000 people virtually during the entire pandemic. And right now he's hosting an amazing show on YouTube, Hot Rides and Real Estate, which we're definitely going to talk about today. Because sure. I started watching it on YouTube and I'm in love. It's fun.
Thank you.
It's amazing. But essentially we got connected through the handsome home buyer. Charles reached out to me and told me, hey, you need to have JB on the show. So I picked up the phone, gave you a call. Immediately I felt the good energy. I've been talking to him for the last 30 minutes or so, and I'm learning that he really does care about people. He's looking to build people. This entire office, you could see it's all about growing his tribe, growing his individuals. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more about who you are today, where you've been, and what you're looking to do going forward.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. We're in his studio today. That's so awesome. Like, the guy lets me have him on my show in his studio, which is amazing.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, so JB, I want to, quickly dive in a little bit about your history. I saw that you've been doing sales professionally for the last 16 years.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how you really stepped into that space? What did that look like when you, transitioned into this world? Where were you coming from? And then what did the beginning look like for you?
Sure. I mean, the thing about sales is that we all have been in sales our entire lives. We just don't know it. Because in life, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. So if you notice the friends and family that you have that are good at sales, even if they don't know that they are, they tend to get things going their way in life more than the ones who aren't. So sales, I wish we could convert that word to people skills. That's really what it is. I'm not in for example, my origin in sales, I'm going to get to that in a moment, which is in real estate. You're not in the real estate business, you're in the people business. So the more you understand people, the better it is. So when I got into sales originally, I started to work for this marketing company. I was in college, I worked odd jobs. So I worked in retail, and then I did oil changes at Jiffy Lube, and I did all this other stuff, and my first sales job was with this company that, what they had is they have retail clients. And retail clients like Best Buy or other places, and they represented a certain brand. So I'll give you an example. Epson printers, are you familiar with them?
Yeah.
So Epson printers and projectors. Their client was Epson. So when they hired me, that was my first real sales training I got, and they told me you need to go to Best Buy's and to meet with management there and have them push our stuff instead of Canon, instead of Kodak, instead of Brother, instead of HP, Epson. And they said, if we're number 3, we'll be happy. So HP is number 1, Canon's generally number 2. If we're number 3 as Epson, we're good. So they gave really good sales training at the time. And I exceeded those goals by 270%. We were number 1 my entire time there.
Wow.
One time I had, management sold even displays. There was just nothing left in the stores. So I found a lot of pride in it because I learned a lot about sales and aspects. So I said, okay, when I finished college, they were like, you can become an area manager and go to corporate, work your way up. So I was super excited about that. I love the company. I still have Epson printers to this day.
Nice, yeah, so, you're loyal, bro.
Yeah. So, except in the office, unfortunately, because I don't know, I don't think they make laser, really. So, what started to happen is that I got really excited, started to progress, do well, and I said, okay, all I got to do is finish college, and then I'm going to corporate, I'm the area manager, and this is what I'm going to do. And they're based in California, so I'll probably end up living in Los Angeles at some point, whatever it might be. And we got an email one night, and it said, hey, we need to do a conference call tomorrow at 9 p.m. And I saw in the email it was New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, this whole East Coast region has to be on this conference call at 9 p.m.
Wow.
So I'm like, what the heck is this about? So when we get on the call, they're like, we lost our contract with Epson, so as of tonight, everyone no longer has a job. You're all let go. And at that moment, my life just changed because I was like, I'm going to do corporate and work for corporate with this. And I was really upset about it. And then all of a sudden, someone else jumped on a conference call late, and they're like, "What just happened? Now I have to get fired again." So, I was going to college, and I really didn't enjoy it really too much. And I remember I walked out of a class because I was just so frustrated. Because, when you're 17 years old and 18 years old, and you got to tell someone when you've lived as a child basically your entire life, someone else telling you what you should do, then they ask you, "Hey, what do you want to do for the rest of your life?"
How are you supposed to come up with an answer?
Yeah.
You never had to make a decision for yourself like that. Wow.
Yeah, you haven't worked in the working world. Most likely you haven't even loved it. You don't even know what a family dynamic is. You don't really understand a lot of things, and you're being asked, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? So it's very difficult to answer that question. So as I'm sitting in this college class, and I'm like frustrated because I don't like the class I'm in, but it's not because it's a bad class, it's because I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. I don't even know why I'm there. So I walk out. And when I walk out, I start to draw like these squares with a timeline of where I'm going to be out of my life. And then for some reason, it was like, do real estate, become a real estate agent.
Wow.
So when I saw a real estate company was hiring, I went there and applied. I didn't know that you're an independent contractor. I didn't know that it was not a salaried position. Yeah. So when I went there, we had a good interview, and she's like, "That's great. Okay, give me your credit card." And I'm like, "For what?" Like, "Yeah, you got to pay for the exam, and then pay for this and pay for that." Yeah. So I was excited because the sales background I came from, I was good at what I did. The training was excellent. So I said, if they give me this same level of training, I'm going to kill it. That's what I'm thinking in my head. And I'm watching these TV shows about these real estate agents just killing it. So I come in and they give me this book, and they're like, "All right, you're going to cold call." I'm like, "Okay, what? So you want me to call people?" They're like, "Yeah, these are expired listings. These are people that were listed at one point, and now the listing has expired, so they're available." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I call, and I'm thinking I'm going to call some real estate agent, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, hey, come on over." And my first ever cold call, I got cursed out. The guy screaming. Yeah. He's trying to hang up. He's banging on the phone. He can't even hang it up, so I'm hearing him bang. So it really roughed me up, and there was no training or guidance. That was the hardest part. The first 2-3 years I struggled in it. And what I started to do was reverse engineer. I didn't know that there was a coach you could get. I didn't even know that there were books on this. I didn't know that there was opportunity. So I kind of started to map everything out, figure it out the hard way. And slowly I started to really grow my business and bring it up to a fast level. And organically, I wasn't seeking it, but the company I was at asked me to start training people.
Wow.
Yeah, and when I started training people, they started to do well. And it was really exciting because I remember one of the first 2 girls I ever recruited and trained, they came from, one was administrative for a company that supplies clothing, and another one worked in retail. And I remember when they came, they were like, "Hey, can I be a secretary? Maybe start with a base salary, then work my way up to real stage." And I said, "No, you just got to come and do this." And what really makes me excited is that both of them were able to leave their jobs,
nice,
work full time in real estate. Then they were able to buy houses and do the things that they wanted to do, based off that training. At that moment, I realized there's something there.
Yeah, you had a gift. I mean, that's amazing that you were able to kind of step into the space, get yourself self-educated, because a lot of people are waiting for that hand-holding.
Yeah.
They kind of expect someone's going to come and do the work for them.
Yeah.
And essentially, it doesn't matter what anyone promises you. At the end of the day, you still have to take it upon yourself if you want to get there to do it. So you came in there, you got yourself educated in the space, and they recognized that, hey, this JB guy, he's kind of doing our job for us. Let's get him teaching these new people. That's insane.
Yeah. So it started to grow, and then I moved to another company, and they had about 500 agents, and they were trying to put a coaching program together for the last 10 years, and it would fall apart every month. So when they asked me to take charge of it, basically, I was responsible, that program was responsible for 20% of their entire revenue. And to this day, it still stands after I created it, because it was something that had to be put together. This is the way I look at teaching someone something, or education in general. It's funny, I have a really good friend of mine, and we were talking about education, and she's Ivy League educated, very, very smart person. Not only a friend, coaching client of mine too. And we were talking about quality of education. So when you talk to someone who went to Harvard or Columbia or Yale or Princeton, you'll ask them, how was it? And they'll always tell you the same thing, it was difficult, a lot of work. And then I wondered something, if a good education is good, shouldn't a good education mean that you can take something extremely complicated and simplify it where someone can learn it very easily? Wouldn't that be the definition of a good education?
You're speaking my language now. You're really, because this is something I love this. I preach it. And when someone says, oh, no, that's complicated, like that's too advanced, what I hear is you don't understand it well enough yet.
Right.
If you're telling somebody else that it's too advanced, that means you don't understand it, because you should be able to break information down so much so that a 5-year-old can understand it.
That's right, yeah.
If you can't get to that point, you still need to understand the information yourself. So I'm right there with you.
For sure. Yeah, and that concept goes into sales even more than you think about it too, because most people don't actually say when they don't understand. So salespeople in a sales cycle make the mistake of using words, terminologies that the prospect doesn't understand, and they don't realize that part of a sales process is being a very good educator, where they understand everything. Because if you notice, when you're able to empower someone with knowledge, there's a lot of trust there, because you're giving someone something that's irrevocable. They'll have it forever. So if you know how to do that, not just like learn well, but teach well, you become very good at sales. And this is why retired school teachers tend to do well as salespeople. Also, people that have worked with people with special needs. When you're working with people with special needs, it requires a lot of patience, understanding, and explanation. So when you're working with someone that has a better cognitive ability and you have that same level of patience, that person feels very appreciated. They feel empathy, and they know that that person understands and can explain well, and then they can work with them very well.
You're dropping me into like a middle of a master class right now. I'm like listening to you. I'm like, man, this guy, he's spot on. You really know what you're talking about, because that's what it is. Sales is people.
Yeah.
Sales, business is people.
Totally.
So being able to speak to them, communicate with them, transfer that knowledge, like you said, that's what builds the trust. I think so many individuals, especially when they step into the space of sales, they're so focused on the product, or they're focused on the price, or they're focused on their pitch or their script.
Yeah.
And they completely forget about the prospect. They forget about the customer, and they forget to give value to them. And what you're saying, hey, if I'm educating them, if I'm giving away all the information and letting them know and letting them make their own honest decision, and I'm fueling them with the equipment they need for it, of course they'll want to. It's almost counterintuitive, but yes, they're going to come back to you and want to work with you, because you're the one that truly provided value. You weren't trying to suck out of them. You were giving, you were pouring into them.
Sure. Yeah, and the thing is that you can also help someone come to an understanding or sell them, quote unquote, but you have to look in this way. This thing is not, it's not easy, but it's simple. So I'll give you an example. Why does someone hire a personal trainer when they can do all the workout routines themselves? Because they're saying, this is what I want, but I want someone to push me. I want someone to push me. And in sales, you'll see that too. You'll see your prospect want to do something, and when they're hitting you with your objections, they're looking for a justification to proceed with the transaction. So that's when you got to know, like, okay, this is the part where it's my turn to encourage them to do this, not because I want the sale, it's because I see that they want it, that actually meets their needs, but they're afraid of something. Because most people that aren't sold, like for example, you worry about like, oh, how do I handle an objection? And they always think it's about, a lot of very inexperienced people always think it's about the money. They'll think like, oh, it's the price, it's the price, it's the price. If the guy or the girl's not sold on themselves and their ability to go get the money again, they won't buy. This is why people will buy something for $7 very quickly, because not because it's cheap, it's because they know they can go get $7 again. But when you're trying to buy something that's $17,000 or $100,000, you're not so sure you can go get it again.
Wow.
So you got to sell them on their ability to go get it again, and it's called granting someone beingness. So granting someone beingness is this: you need to treat people the way you want them to act. If you treat someone like they're intelligent, they'll act intelligent. If you treat someone like they're stupid, they'll act stupid. Not because they're being manipulated or brainwashed, it's just if you notice if someone's looking at you with low expectations, you tend to perform less than someone was actually granting you beingness of an intelligent person. So you have to speak to someone as if they're already in abundance, so they know that their ability to create again is there. That's why you don't use the word budget. Budget's very restrictive. And when you think about it, budget is not even a budget. Because think about it. If I call you about a product that you were not thinking about, but that could be useful to you, let's say, are you in the market right now for a surveillance camera?
No.
No. Does that mean that you wouldn't buy one if a good opportunity came up, or if someone could show you a way that it could work out for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, if the opportunity came up,
right.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're not going to buy one, you're just not in the market for one, right?
Right.
Which means that there's no way you've budgeted money to buy a surveillance camera, right? So if we're talking about budget, that's a no-go right there. So until you actually have an understanding on it, budgets are created for things after you find out about them. So if you start thinking about budgets with people, it doesn't work well because most of the time you weren't even a thought or your product wasn't a thought. So of course it's going to be over budget because they never budgeted the money for that in the first place.
Right, that's spot on.
Yeah, so what you need to do is when you show someone something of value is you have to show them, for example, how this benefits them, what problem does it solve, and two, you have to look at it from the cost perspective of when someone really is worried about money, can that money destroy them? Like if you were gonna, like let's say for example, we found out that you have something very valuable in front of your house that you want guarded. So I want to sell you the surveillance camera. That surveillance camera is $300. Well, we just have to look at it. Okay, can $300 ruin you? Will you go bankrupt? Will you be on the street? Will $300 ruin you? No. Okay, good. We have that understanding. What about that thing you're protecting? If that thing gets stolen or damaged, can that destroy you or hurt you? Potentially. A lot more. Okay, great. So then in that case, we have to look at what's the greater good, and then that's how you move a sales cycle. I'm giving you very tidbits of pieces.
Right.
But to walk you through it is that you have to be a good listener, and you also have to explain to people why it's a good idea. And if it's not a good fit, don't sell it to them. That's all.
Well, and this makes sense now. Your statement earlier about why sales is people.
Yeah.
Right, and it's communication more so, because what you just said, being a good listener. A lot of folks when they're communicating, I've seen this with. So I don't do a sales program or anything like that. I do sales training with my buddies.
Right.
I have us all sit down 6 a.m. every morning from 6 to 7 or 6 to 8 a.m. Every single morning we get on and we role play, right? And what I'll find is when they're getting started, when they're new, what they do a lot of the times is they're waiting for you to stop talking so they can start selling again, so they can start coming in, but they're not actually listening.
That's right.
You're saying, hey, no, I'm going to listen to you. You're telling me about this treasure in the yard. Okay, that's important to you. My camera is not important to you, but that treasure is important to you. So what if I tell you now that I know that's important to you, I can let you know that my camera could help you protect that thing that's important to you. So What's more important to you, $300 or that thing over there? Trade the $300, get this, and that's going to protect that. That makes a lot of sense.
Right, it's a lot easier to make that decision. And you always have to come from agreement, because when you don't acknowledge someone, there's a difference between someone letting you speak and then listening to you. And a lot of people are just basically, as salespeople, like you said, they're waiting for their opportunity to sell again. They're not even listening anymore. They're just waiting for that moment to jump back in. And then because you've actually created a cadence in the conversation that way, where that's how the things are going to go, that person's doing the same thing. They have their objection lined up, just waiting for you to stop trying to sell so they can hit you with that. So they have this ridge instead of flow in communication, which is poor. It's not, salespeople really, they run the planet. By that I mean is that every good product you can think of, every good service, even life-saving things that have been invented, someone had to go out and bring it to the marketplace and sell it. And I think where people start to feel like, I don't want to sound salesy, or I don't like sales, or I don't want to be a salesman, they think that's a liar. A liar is a liar.
I agree.
Okay? They come in suit and ties as politicians, they come as doctors, they come as lawyers, right? They come as salespeople. They even come as religious leaders. Like, we've seen a liar or someone who's done bad things or taken advantage of people in every position. So of course we're going to see them in sales too. But what's important to realize, as long as your ethics are in, you have to realize that person's going to go out there and buy it anyway. They should buy it from you because you are honest and you are the right person. And it's your duty as a salesperson to go out there and make sure that they buy from you, because they're going to spend the money anyway. They might as well get it from the best and get the best product and service in the first place.
I love that. So I think you would actually agree with this statement. I heard it from Jim Rohn, which is sales is service, right? And being able to know, if I'm selling you something, I believe in it, I truly do know that it's beneficial for you.
Right.
Therefore, if I truly do in my heart of hearts believe it's good for you, I have permission to push. I have permission to really make sure I'm doing you a disservice if I let you leave here without buying this product that I know will solve your problem. You came to me, you told me you had a problem, you told me this is what you wanted to have solved. I have a product for you. It costs money. I want you to buy this. And something that I'm actually happy we're having this conversation. I didn't mean to dive so deeply into sales, but I actually am happy we're having this conversation, because a lot of people do need to break that mindset they have with sales and understand that there's something to be said about getting somebody to exchange value, right? Getting somebody to give you the money for the product. Because sometimes people will say, well, why don't you just give it to me for free? You won't value it the same if you receive it for free. When you hand over something in exchange and you create that transaction, you now associate the value to the product.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how valuable I think the product is. It doesn't matter how valuable you think the product is. It matters how valuable the customer thinks the product is. Because ultimately, they're the ones that need to utilize it, value it, and extract that value for themselves.
Right.
They might stop short of extracting the value if you just hand it over to them.
Sure. I mean, but the thing is, we have to look at it too, is like when we talk about money, this is why a lot of people have financial issues, because the thing about money is that we're kind of looking at to always preserve it. And when you look at any economy, no matter how rough it's ever gotten, there's never been a shortage of money. There's never been a shortage of money in the history of the world because it's made up. They say money doesn't grow on trees, but there's more cash in circulation than leaves on trees at this point. So why am I saying this? It's very simple. When you think about money, you start to negate the fact, like, let's figure out what is money. Money used to be based off of the gold standard and silver standard, which means that we used to take out a $20 bill or a $100 bill or whatever. It would say, this bill is redeemable for X amount of ounces of silver at the US Mint. So that stopped. Now it's based off of the Federal Reserve, and to not go into a long history thing, but the Federal Reserve is a private bank.
Right.
It's not owned by the government, and then they issue the money as debt to the U.S. government, who then circulates it. So if you look at a dollar bill, anyone watching or listening at home, you can pull out any bill, and if you'll look on the either bottom left side or bottom right side, depending on what denomination note it is, they'll say a few things. Well, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So what that means is, one is another thing that we call the mortgage is a note. It's a debt instrument. It's an IOU, one. Two is, what that means is that this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Do you know what that means?
This debt is legal tender for all notes, public and private.
For all debts. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private.
So essentially, this is just an IOU for private entities.
Close. What it really means is that, let's say I lent you $100, or you want to buy something from me for $100. You would give me $100. I'm like, no, Marlon, I'll take euro, I'll take gold, but I'm not taking US dollar. The federal government would come to me and say, take the money or go to prison.
No way.
That's what it means. It means that US dollar, not taking dollar, we'll enforce it. We'll force you to take it if you don't decide to take it. So a lot of people think like, oh, well, what if people only take credit card? Well, it's coming in as US dollar. It's not coming in as euro or Bitcoin. So what it means is that you're going to accept this, or we're going to force you to accept it. So why is this the case? So if money's not connected to silver or gold anymore, it's not based off of anything but like really debt. It's this private bank that, like, what is money then? Like, what is it really connected to? And it's connected to something, but a lot of people don't realize this. Money is a unit of attention. What money is just attention. So when you get attention, people exchange units of attention, which is dollar amounts, in exchange for that thing. If you need $20 of gas, you have more attention on the gas than you do that $20 bill. So in exchange, you'll give it.
Wow.
So when someone says, give it to me for free, the reason why it doesn't work is because they have no attention on it. So how can you use something you have no attention on? If it's not worth the money in your pocket, you don't have attention for what I'm trying to give you. If you did, you'd give me the money. So even if the money had nothing to do with it, the fact that you have no attention on it means you wouldn't use it. So if you don't have someone's attention, they're not going to want to give you their money ever. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. That's why they're like, oh, they want to fly under the radar, or they don't want to get someone's attention, or they don't realize that money is a unit of attention. If you want proof, Kylie Jenner is the best example. Is she an actress? No. Is she a singer? No. What does she do exactly? Well, we're not sure, but we know this, right? Like, think about, like, we've yet to say, what is she? She's a public figure. This is a new thing coming out now. Everyone's a public figure.
You're absolutely right.
What that means is that I'm very good at getting attention. Because I'm very good at getting attention, if you notice, she's a billionaire. She's under 30 years old. Because a lot of companies go, wow, she gets a lot of attention. So if we implant or give her a product or service to offer, the fact that she gets all this viewership is a good indicator, and that's how money's made. So if you get more attention, you'll get money. So if you have a money problem, you have an attention problem. So if you're there talking to someone, you're trying to hold on to that money because that salesman's going to take your money, that's not the case. You'll be broke for the rest of your life because you're violating a big rule. You're not getting any attention for yourself, your product, or your service, and all you do is have attention on money as if it's going to like get smaller. But in actuality, the more you try and hold on to it, the less you'll have, because that's not the way money works. Money has to be flowed all the time. I got good news and bad news about money. So the good news is that if you look at all the money in your bank account, and all the money in your pocket, it's not yours. It's someone else's. All that money is already allocated that you're going to give to someone or something else. When you really look at it, most of your money, it's really not yours. You get money, what do? You go and pay bills. You spend it on this. So that is that's DoorDash's money. That's your landlord or mortgage company's money. That's your car. That's the bank's money. That's the gas station's money. It's not yours. So all the money in your bank account in your pocket is not yours. The good news is this: all the other money on the planet is yours, because they were going to spend it anyway. You need to have them route it to you. Like if I was going to buy, like for example, internet service, I was going to spend that money anyway. Why not spend it on this one instead? Someone wants to pay for coaching or consulting. They were going to spend it anyway. Why not for your product or service? And this is why you need to get attention, because you could be better, but it doesn't go to the best. It goes to the best known.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why Microsoft beat Apple in getting their software out there beforehand, because Steve Jobs was obsessed with being the best, and he's done a very good job at that, and I can't say he was a failure at all. He's very successful, and so is Apple. But Bill Gates was more concerned with being the best known, and he said, we'll perfect it after it goes out there. As you can see, there's definitely good points for both, but we know that when you walk into an office, into a store, into someone's house, most likely there's a lot more PCs being used than Mac to this day.
Absolutely right.
So
I mean, even we see that with books, right? Like that's one of the things we see out there all the time. Some of these books that are bestsellers aren't necessarily the most, not the greatest book to touch planet Earth,
right?
But they are the best sold.
Exactly.
They're the ones that got the most attention, like you said.
For sure.
So that's spot on. I really, that was gems. I mean, you just dropped a lot of gems. I mean, for myself, I'm just like, wow, like cut the camera off, like let's just sit and talk. It's really cool, because essentially as well, something that you said with Microsoft and Apple really taking it there to a lot of folks, like you said, Steve Jobs, he was focused on, I want to be the best, period. Like I want to make the perfect product.
Yeah.
Right? And essentially a lot of people have that in their mind, right?
Yeah.
I want to start a business, but I need to make sure it's perfect first. I want to create a video, but it needs to be perfect. There's so many things they want to do that they want to have perfect. Before I sell you that product, I need to make sure it's perfect. Guess what? If things were perfect, you would have had the iPhone, what are we at, 12, 13? You would have had that 10 years ago. They released an unfinished product. How do we know? Because we went through iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4. Those products weren't finished. They had more work that needed to be done, but they sold them anyway.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that a lot. I think it's really valuable. So before we dive deeper, I mean, because I could talk about that stuff for hours. You're like, you piqued my interest, especially with the whole money thing. I think after the camera's cut off, we're going to have a conversation about the Federal Reserve.
Sure.
But essentially, you're now doing a few things, right? So you're teaching, you're coaching. I want to ask you, first off, how did you figure out that was your superpower, for lack of better terms?
It's crazy. The coaching segment is interesting because I don't like the word coach, because now everyone's a coach when you go online. But what I realized is that essentially a lot of people don't realize this. I didn't want to get into this because of the fact that I thought that like this is a good money opportunity. I enjoyed it out of everything else I did. And before I opened up this company, as far as like with real estate, I mean, it was going very well. The income was there. I had a very solid team. We did 41 transactions. I only had to get involved in 3 or 4. I spent 3 months straight in LA while everything was being built out. My income was 13 times what my expenses are at the time. And then when I created this company, I had to go back to leveling off to zero, which a lot of people are like afraid to do. And the reason why I did that is because whenever I try to create something, it ends up not being selfish, but I think about it like this. If I had this, where would I be right now? If I was able to walk into a place and get certain training and have a certain group, if I was able to get this type of mentorship, where would I be today? Because I realized education is just a time machine. You were going to figure it out anyway, but instead of it taking 10 years, you could be there in like a month or 2, maybe 1 year. So that's why I created it, because I had this thing where I wanted to create 1 million millionaires. And the reason why is because I believe when people are good, they tend to do good things with money. So like, I don't believe money changes people. I think it just makes a jerk worse, but I think it makes a good person better. So what I wanted to do was create a new world, and here's what I mean by new world, not a new world order, right? So here's what I mean by that. And most people start becoming very successful at what they do. What will happen is that I'll be able to, my kids will be able to go anywhere on the planet and have a friend there because of the things that I was able to do, plant those seeds. So I wanted to create an environment where people would do really well, stick together, help each other, help the people around them, pay it forward, make the world a better place. And to be honest with you, we can't do it without making money. So that's why I wanted to do this. Like I wanted to do it because I didn't want people to get confused and frustrated, lose their marriage over finance, which is so silly when you have such a great relationship. I don't want that to create issues for other things. I figured if people's finances are doing well, their education gets better, crime rate goes down, marriages are better, health is better. So my best contribution with the skills that I had to make the biggest difference was this. That's what I wanted to do.
Wow, that's amazing. That's insane because one, listening to you and just even sitting here right now with you, you are an amazing teacher. You're an amazing communicator. You've passed information to me. You built a bridge and then you passed information over that bridge seamlessly. So I'm like, yes, this guy needs to be in front of more people. You really do need to be in front of more people because a lot of people go into the space to educate and they're not good communicators yet and they don't know how to pass the information. They know how to utilize the information and that doesn't necessarily qualify you to teach the information.
Right.
And you've gotten yourself to that point where you recognize like, hey, no, I can do this and I'm able to help people. And you see, if I help more people, they can go out and they can further this mission because you've learned what I'm learning for myself now. You can't do it alone.
Yeah.
It's impossible to do it alone. You could only go but so far.
Right.
And recognizing that money doesn't change, it amplifies.
Exactly.
So I love that you say that because that's going to help a lot of people change that mindset behind the money. Money is the root of all evil. That's the concept we were brought up with, or at least I know for myself, I was taught that. You look at the bad guy in a movie. Who is he? He's the big round belly with the monocle and he has $1 billion. So the billionaires are the bad people. The millionaires are the bad people.
Right.
I meet millionaires and I don't think I've met any billionaires yet, but I've met plenty of millionaires, amazing individuals. And I think we're going to be taking a 1-minute break soon to swap out the batteries, but essentially we have to change that dynamic because if they really want to do good and they're afraid to get money and they're afraid to make money and afraid to sell so that they can grow themselves, they're effectively capping how much good they can do. So I'm happy to hear somebody like yourself that's in a position where you can do good, that you're saying you need this needs to be a part of the game plan. So when we get back, actually, I'm going to talk about something because you recently had your event, which was the Long Island real estate revolution. And I noticed when I was watching a promo video for it, you actually took some of the funds, you took some of the proceeds, and you sent it out to a charity for the leukemia. So I want to talk about that.
Sure, yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Okay guys, so we are back. Just had to take a quick break to get some fresh batteries. Hopefully you're still getting a ton of value. Seriously, I don't ever do this in the middle of an episode, but at this point, if you've gotten any value, if you've had any new thought, any new idea, or you now see a new way of doing something, I want you to share this. Share it with a friend, tag us in it. You're gonna find me, you already know what my Instagram handle is, it's Mindset Marlon. You're gonna find JB, what's
at JB Bolvadin.
At JB Bolvadin. So, and that's gonna be in the comments below, in the description below. But tag us, share us, let's start a communication. Let us know what your biggest takeaway has been so far, because we've got a lot more to cover. So, we're just quickly talking about the Long Island real estate revolution, and you've been letting me know that actually that was spearheaded by Charles, and then you helped out on the marketing end?
So there was something called Man of the Year, and what Man of the Year is this competition between other people in the business space, and they're competing to raise the most money for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So Charles was at Handsome Home Buyer. You guys need to follow him. He's amazing.
He's hilarious.
Great.
You guys already seen him. He was on I think episode 7. So definitely go check that episode out if you haven't seen it yet.
I love him, dude. That guy's like a brother. So Charles, at the time, we knew of each other. We never really connected at the time, and he was building his team. So what Man of the Year is, they built together this team, and this team puts together a project, fundraiser, whatever it might be, to help raise money. So I reached out to him, and he very warmly accepted my offer. We got together, and I said, we started to discuss how do we make this thing big. So we rented out the Tilla Center, and it had a capacity of about 2,500 people, and we're going to sell out at live conference, all-day conference event, and it was going to be the largest in Long Island's history for real estate, called the Long Island Real Estate Revolution. And then COVID broke out, and they canceled, all this, and every social distancing became required. So in about a week time, about 1 week it took, we moved it to online instead. And in that 1 week, we got 9,000 people on the.
I saw that. It was insane. I went on. I actually went on YouTube last night because the guys, they put the entire course on YouTube, the entire conference on YouTube. By the way, which is insane. Like that amount of value on YouTube for free. It's 9+ hours of just amazing guests. Especially if you're here on Long Island, these are the people you need to be listening to. Take a quick side note. You all know about me and my journey into real estate and being here on Long Island, being in New York. This market is the freakiest, weirdest thing that doesn't make any sense. All the gurus out there, none of their advice necessarily works here. I'm just gonna be completely upfront and honest about that. It's just, it doesn't work in this strange little space.
Right.
And then we have individuals like you and Charles that are actually making it work. Billy Alvera, different guys that make it work, and they've been doing it here, and they can teach you the nuance of this particular market. So if you live in Long Island, you need to be following these guys. You have to check it out. You're gonna get more value than anywhere else because no one else knows your market like they do.
Yeah, they're all great guys. And you know what, the one thing I love about the team too is aside from, because Billy was on that team also. So you mentioned Billy Alvaro, he was on that team. There was a lot of great, Brian Karp was on that team.
Yep.
He helped participate in that, in the live event too. So the most interesting thing about all of this is that all these people, these are just a few names, there's a lot of other people. In Long Island, there's this like group of guys that are heavy hitters and everything. So I say this, with being humble, but I'll give you an example. Like so I'll talk about like the names I just mentioned. Billy is probably one of the most systemized, best marketers in the real estate investment space. One of the best wholesaling operations. Plus, he invests in a lot of other stuff too. Charles Weinraub is hands down the #1 fix and flip investor on Long Island. Very intelligent, very high energy, just a great guy. Brian Karp, he sold 205 houses last year. The guy, and that's not a 1 year thing. He sells over 100 homes every single year by himself. And then me. I run the largest real estate sales training company on the East Coast. And I can tell you right now, like when it comes to these names I mentioned, in that space, when it comes to what they do, they're the best. In the training space, I'm the best. So all these guys all got together. They all happen to be in the same geographic region, and they all happen to be very accessible to a certain extent. So I think living in Long Island is really a blessing because, we're not like someone messages us, we get back to them. You know what I mean? If someone wants to meet with us, depending on who it is and when it is. That doesn't mean we're selective. When I say who it is, it doesn't mean, it just means that like what I'm saying is that like we can arrange that. And these people are, it's incredible that everyone got into one kind of sphere here, one ecosystem to bring the real estate revolution about. And it was really valuable at a really uncertain time. And it's something I'm very proud of because that right there spearheaded a lot of other projects, including Hot Rides in Real Estate. I think it changed the way, I know it changed Charles and I specifically, our minds a lot when it comes to like media, what we can really do, how we can get there and making those projects. And we got a lot of good feedback about it. And it's really cool when you go out somewhere and you haven't had the privilege of meeting someone yet, but they know you.
It's, man.
And then you get connects you to more people. And I think if you're thinking about creating something online, don't do it to be famous, do it like this. An airport has a lot of terminals, right? So everyone is trying to constantly build terminals and find terminals. That's a lot of work. If you just built an airport, all the terminals would want to set up at your airport. So that's called a comm line. A communication line is something that's the airport. And everyone wants to take their terminal link up to you. Having a podcast, a show, is a comm line. And people create terminals and add on to it. How else could we have met? You and I.
It's true.
So one of the best pieces of advice I ever heard, and I'll tell you who told it to me, Grant Cardone told me this. He said, dude, you're not going to meet anyone that you want in your life until you build something worth them coming to. Everyone and everything you're trying to meet, you'll never get it until you build something worth them coming to. And I took that and I created this, and I love what you're doing, and I think a lot of people should do it too, because it's brought me in connection with a lot of people that would have never happened if I didn't do it. So if you think about not creating content, or if you're worried about it, I would tell you you're making a terrible mistake. You'll regret for the rest of your life if you don't. Don't worry about being interesting. Don't worry about being funny. Don't worry about being witty. Just know the fact that when people know who you are and know you exist, whether they like you or not is not relevant. What's most important is they know you exist now, which you now have a platform to work off of.
Wow, there's so many layers right there. You just hit on so many different things. Like, honestly, guys, go back, rewatch that, listen to it 10 times. Because, yes, building a platform for people to come to you, being that terminal, key. Like you said, you and I are connected today because of that podcast.
Right.
I connected to Charles because of the podcast. Charles connected me to you because of the podcast. And ultimately, I don't know who it's going to lead to next, but I know it's going to lead to somebody after this.
Yeah.
I know, because now that terminal is open. People are going to fly through. And then what you said, where people are thinking about doing it and they haven't done it yet, guys, we just said earlier, you have to release unfinished products. It's not going to be perfect. The podcast that we're recording here today, 10 years from now, I'm going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, that was so terrible in comparison to what I'm doing now. But I'm starting, you're starting, JB started. You need to get that process moving. You need to make it happen, because it will attract the right people towards
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely.
I like that. Like, that's especially coming from someone like Grant Cardone, who's living that message right now, flooding the space with your presence. And then this is something that this is actually why you stood out to me so much. So, even as I was watching Hot Rides and Real Estate, which we're going to talk about in just a bit, you were so authentic and genuine, and it was you. When you're watching something and you can tell somebody's acting, or they're creating a persona, and sometimes that's an actor. They are creating a persona, and they'll admit and they give that persona a brand new name, and great. But some people try to make that persona appear to be them. Some people try to pass off as the facade. And that wasn't you. You came on and you were 100%. I was like, no, this guy didn't matter who the guest was, you were the same. You were you. And then the guests you brought on, they were themselves.
Right.
And I was like, wow, like somebody is really out here putting out the real. Somebody is truly sharing, because the space needs it. The next generation of people need it. There's so much content out there, and a lot of it's still, for lack of better terms, in my opinion, it's garbage, right? Because it's not giving people true value. It's causing them to build false images of what reality and life can be.
Yeah, it creates confusion.
Right.
And confusion creates stupidity. So, you got to be careful people talk about diet a lot. And I think, obviously what you eat is very important, but the mental diet's neglected a lot. And, the confusion is the root of stupidity. So when you start to see that, like, for example, you'll see someone on social media, they know the other person personally. They know that what they're seeing on social media is not who they are, and they still get annoyed or depressed or jealous or whatever because that persona looks better. So there's a way to kind of like fix this, right? So you can't sit here and be like the authenticity police. Like, this is bullshit. That's not, this works, that doesn't. The way to look at it is like this. Social media is just like any other television station or channel. It's entertainment based. So if someone's going to go on Instagram, you're like, I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to show that, like, every day I go for a run. Runners may relate to that. Everyone else may find it boring. Now, what I'm saying is that when you look at something when you say, okay, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to build up something that people want to see while maintaining authenticity, that works a lot better, because you're not going to get a following being so authentic to the core where you realize that you're an entertainer. You're entertainment space. As soon as you decide I'm going to use my Instagram to get followers or to sell a product or to get any attention, you've gotten to entertainment space. You have your own channel. You have an Instagram channel, you have a YouTube channel, you have a Facebook channel, you have a Twitter channel. No matter what you want to call it, these are channels on TV stations. That's the way you got to look at it. What programs do you have? What are you offering? And if you were to look at it like that, now when you're watching it, you're not like, oh, this is confusing, or oh, this is not authentic. You're just like, okay, this is his channel. This is what he's pitching. This is what his program is. Whether you like it or not, that's another story. The fake, I'll give you an example. Like, everyone on Instagram, everyone's rich, everyone's in love, everyone's gorgeous, right? Everyone's happy. and everyone's just doing so well. And I hope one day that becomes the real world, but instead of maybe someone looking at it and feeling intimidated by it, angry at it, or frustrated with it, what I would say is that that's the channel. That's what, when you log into Instagram, that's what this programming is about. You don't get mad that HGTV shows houses. You don't get mad that CNN shows news. Wow. Right? So don't get mad at Instagram for showing that, because that's what people are there for.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, so that's the way I would look at it. So then say, okay, do I want to participate in this or not? If you do, enjoy. Have fun. Create your content too. Have fun with it. No one can call you fake, because Instagram is La La Land. So create some La La.
Oh man,
you know?
Oh man, I like, that's big.
Yeah.
That's really, I think that's going to be game changer for a lot of people right there.
Yeah.
I know I'm thinking about like, okay, cool, like I just figured out 20 new things. So again, guys, if you're getting value here, like go find him. Like he's going to be pumping out value all day long, especially, so now, speaking about Instagram and YouTube, you have hot rides and real estate.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is how attention grabbing it is. Right? So yeah, you play the game enough to get people in. Then when they're in, you're still providing them with value.
Yeah.
You're really giving them value. So that's what I love to see, because people will pull you in, and then when you get there, you're not really getting anything. It's not doing anything for you. Your life isn't getting better for having had watched it.
Totally.
With your content, I get pulled in, and it's like, oh, great. There are some amazing people on here, and now I'm hearing their story, and okay, awesome. Yeah, like you're selling it with the kind of the flash, the attention-grabbing headlines and the pictures and the cars. So how did that get started?
So that's a great question. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to, we understand what the channel was, right? What people want to see, what they want to watch. All the vehicles in the show, if you notice, I never claimed that they were mine. In fact,
I caught on to that after some point. I was like, huh.
Yeah, I never claimed that they were mine. In fact, we give credit in the ending credits of who supplied the vehicle, what company, and everything else. So Hot Rides and Real Estate was designed with actually two guests in mind. It's an interview where we do a podcast, except on the go, and we grab a top performer, someone who's very good in the real estate industry at one segment, and we also pick them up in a top performing car. So, for example, episode 1 was Charles. Mm-hmm. So he's number one fix and flip real estate investor, and then we grabbed one of the best track cars, best sports cars ever made, Porsche 911 GT3 RS. Went for an interview with that. Then we did Dan O'Neill. That's a great guy to follow too. Dan is he's been in the real estate industry for less than 3 years, 26 years old. I believe he sold over 160 houses. He had 57 under contract at the time I interviewed him. Not in his life, at that time. And in a very short amount of time, at a very young age, he's been able to put together a system that works. And then from then on, we had so many good guests. I mean, I could just go down a list. We were already at episode 8, Marco. We did 8. Yeah, so we did 8 episodes. We have one more, and then we're going to wrap up season 1. And the concept of the show was to create an effect that people want to see it, enjoy it, make it entertaining, but educational, edutainment per se.
I love it.
And that's what we did with the show. Season 1, I promised myself, no one asked me to do this, no one criticized it, but I decided in the season 1, you'll notice I don't sell anything. I don't even put an ad. My company's paying for all the production, doing everything, and there's not really a shout out to my own company in the show. And the reason that is very simple. The whole purpose of the show wasn't to sell anything. It was to get out of obscurity with people, for them to know that they have information and a friend. And that's what we wanted to do. And I'm proud of it, because the budget wasn't there to do it. I'm sure you realize that rolling with a camera crew in Ferraris and Lamborghinis and all this other stuff, it's not cheap.
It adds up real quick.
It's not cheap at all per episode. It's a very expensive project. Per episode usually is more than what the average real estate agent spends per year marketing, which is not bragging. It's kind of sad for the real estate agent. But what I'm saying is it's not cheap. And I'm not bragging or complaining. What I'm telling you is that this is something no one said that they wanted, that we did. Someone came to me and pitched me the idea of it. I liked it. He's actually a co-producer on the show now, and I ran with it. And when we ran with it, we just did it. And it's something that we did about 11 days later, or 9 days later. I forgot, like the idea, and then 9 days later we did it. And that's kind of like something that started to roll. And now it was able to connect me and work with a lot of people that were my friends, also new people. And it became literally the best show in the real estate podcast area, at least in New York and Long Island, because So far, I'm looking at every guest that's been on the show, and then I reverse check them on every other podcast or show they've been on, and the amount of views is significantly more.
Oh yeah.
Significantly. Like one of them had 2,000 views. Their highest was 2,000 on an interview. He's at over 12,000 with us.
Yeah.
So we accomplished that in 5 days worth of time on there.
That's insane.
Yeah. So we have over 65,000 or 70,000 views now for the show. And it was a platform where people can really get out of obscurity for themselves. It was great education because they don't hold back. They actually say like what they do, how they do it. You know their handles, where to follow them at. So I like to take the good with the bad because going back to the Instagram thing, yeah, it can be a little like, fake sometimes, but also allows you to connect with people and follow people on a regular that normally you wouldn't. You'd hope that you bump into them somewhere. So Hot Rides in Real Estate was the first stage of many things that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a network going into next year. It'll be running 24 hours a day, real estate edutainment.
Wow.
We have another show coming out, 2 more shows coming out. One is going to be where investors are being pitched real estate deals and they're buying in real time or partnering real time with them so they can actually see that happen live. Another one is that we're finding real estate agents that are struggling in their business and in a short amount of time, redoing everything, making makeovers, marketing, sales training, all of that. So we have that going in, and then Hot Rides in Real Estate Season 2 will be going to Los Angeles, Montreal, Miami, Houston, Las Vegas, and we're even going to try and pull off London. So we're looking to really like scale it up. Hot Rides in Real Estate was that first step. We was very, the public was very receptive to it. It was a lot of hard work to do the show. Trust me, it's not easy to do that. Like there's a very dynamic shots.
Right. No, I've seen. You guys do a great job.
Thank you. It's but it's all worth it because what we want to do is just bring something that other people aren't. And the goal is to really change the way things are done, especially going to next year. We're going to be very heavy in this space.
I love that. I mean, because you're putting in the work, and I don't think enough. I don't think you get enough credit for it. So I'm going to give you credit for it. Like that's amazing, because you're doing that back end work that nobody sees no one sees it get done. Yeah. They assume the cars are yours. They assume that the camera people just manifest themselves out of nowhere and they're ready to work and they're ready to edit. I sat down with Marcos and he was telling me about how much time he's putting in editing, that your team is coming together. They're learning on the fly as you're coming up with this idea to make it happen. So it wasn't like it was this perfect thing. You're going to keep getting better. The production's going to keep getting better. You're going to keep expanding. You're already tapping into different markets, because I was going to ask you, aren't you going to run out of people eventually? Like there could only be a number one in each category.
Cars too.
Yeah. Like, next it's going to be boats and planes and all that good stuff.
Exactly.
But that's really cool that you're putting in that much effort to even just get the people's attention, to then bring them and give them value, real value, because anybody can teach theory. Anybody can do it. But to say, hey, I'm going to actually show you how these conversations go down. These are real, unscripted conversations. I'm going to show you someone's business who's been struggling for the last 7 years, and we're going to show you that transformation step by step. So you're not just going to be listening and looking at a before and after picture and hearing about the success story. You're going to see the whole way through.
Right.
And people need that. People need it more. They might not even know they need it, but they need it. You recognize that need, and you're providing it to them. So thank you for that. That's a service.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
That's really amazing.
Thank you.
And like the show, guys, if you haven't seen it yet, Hot Rides and Real Estate. It will be in the description. Check it out on YouTube. It's hilarious. It's actually I like the episode with Charles. Like you guys had me crying in the beginning. Like that was so funny. That intro, the way it started off, so much fun. And it's good energy, good vibes, and good information. So the fact that you called it, what did you call it? Edutainment?
Edutainment, yeah.
I love that because you're giving education and you're giving entertainment all together in one bundle.
And that's the way it should be. You should really enjoy learning. It should be fun. It should be exciting. It should be funny. It should be something, because you can remember that easy, and you enjoy it. You want more of it. So education doesn't have to be as formal as people think. It should be super fun.
I like that.
Yeah.
So guys, hopefully this was a good introduction into the world of JB. You guys are gonna go on Instagram, social media, follow him. He dropped a lot of gems for us here today. I really do appreciate you for coming on the show. I want to be super respectful of your time, because I think we could talk about this stuff forever. Yeah. And guys, if you want to make something happen, you need to get started. JB, I do have 2 questions for you before I let you go.
Sure.
And these are my favorite questions to ask people at the end of every show, right? Number 1, because I'm big into reading, I'm big into self-education. Can you name a minimum of 2 books? Let's actually say a maximum of 2 books, because I've had people get the list out. But no more than 2 books that were complete paradigm shifts for you. Like you read these books, you opened them up, and you haven't been able to close Pandora's box after it.
Yeah, I mean, one of them is the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. That was a great book. It's that's one of the first times I opened up that book, and it really just like I flew with it. I think that was a phenomenal book. Still is, not past tense, still is. And then let's see, a lot of Grant books were good. I was going to actually recommend something else, but I don't think they're ready for that yet. Let's see.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So
I'm going to have to get that one. Anyway.
Yeah. Another book I'd recommend is also a Grant Cardone book, which is Sell or Be Sold. If you're looking to get into sales. Let me drop one more if that's all right with you.
I got it now.
Which is Be Obsessed or Be Average.
That one was like coffee.
That's right, yeah.
Like I was reading it, and I was on an airplane reading that, and I was so wired.
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow, yes.
Yeah. So,
great book.
Yeah, that book is amazing. So if you're looking to get started or fired up, I think those are one of the great ways. That there's a lot of books I could recommend. It's hard to like narrow it down to 2. So I know you gave me a 2 limit. I did 3. Thank you for giving me that.
And you know what? You know what's really funny? I got to say, because you're a testament to something, right? I know a lot of folks don't necessarily like Grant Cardone because they feel that his energy is too aggressive, or it's this or it's that. And yet I'm sitting here with you, and you're someone that's like, you've got a nice calm energy about you, right? And it goes to show, don't block off information because of a preconceived notion you have of potentially the individual. Right? Dive deep. Go figure out for yourself. Don't just take someone else's word for it, because someone put it into my mind that Grant Cardone was this or like that, and then I started reading his information on my own, and I said, there's nothing wrong. This is good information. Good information is good information. And then you start looking into the guy's story, and you're like, this is a good guy. Like, so I'm happy to hear you like to be able to pick books that came right from Grant Cardone, because I've read the Be Obsessed or Be Average, and holy cow, that's a good book.
Yeah, I mean, what I can tell you about Grant is, yeah, his energy's strong, right? And normally that's not the type that I connect to, but where I connected with him, like a quick like sideline story is, I was at one of the lowest points in my entire life, and I was on YouTube, and he just popped up, and at that moment that dude woke me up. And I don't care, you could say anything you want about the guy's energy. Maybe you don't need someone to like, but sometimes you're at a level where you need that energy. And that energy is something I fed off of for a long time. And I remember that, where I was when he came down to NASDAQ 2015. And at the time I was going through a lot of financial issues because there was a falling out with one of my brokers. She didn't pay me out on anything. I just got married. My wife just got laid off. So we're like newlyweds with like no income. I went down there and, I borrowed $100 from a friend to have Grant sign. I wasn't going to use the money. I didn't have the money, but I had to borrow it. And he signed it, and I've put it in a frame. That frame's still at my house today. And I came home to my wife, and I said, one day I'm going to be doing business with this guy, and this is the least amount of money we'll ever have. It's going to get bigger from there. Wow. So I could tell you that in 2018, I did business with Grant. You know, I was in his licensee program, and I was one of the first in the entire country to do that. He connected me with a few people and a few things that I would have never ever found without him. So before you try to just look for like this with anyone, but I could tell you firsthand with Grant, because I know him firsthand, is before you dive in and try to find something you don't like about him, maybe you should find this. The guy was, he comes from, at one point he was so addicted to drugs, his life was falling apart. He totally changed that into creating a sales career for himself, and then from there going to the consulting-based business. He wrote books that are helpful, that do help you. He brings a certain energy to a room, and even if you can't really understand necessarily how successful, how big something can get, remember this. When someone comes from that far to come so far up that you can't even imagine getting that high, you got to look at how low he was. You know, and that's something where you might feel like, oh, he's too wired, or he's too this, he's too that. You don't got to love everything about him. That's not what's important. I don't love everything about anything. You know what I mean? Anything. So what I could tell you is we could talk about stuff that someone doesn't like about him, but here's what I'll tell you. The stuff I do like about him changed my life forever. And if there's stuff I don't like, that has nothing to do with the fact, or that doesn't invalidate the fact that I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't be where I'm at today. We wouldn't be talking probably or met had he not entered my life. So what I would tell someone is, if you're watching Grant or watching someone else, you don't have to love the guy all the way. Right? You don't. Do you really love your waiter all the way? No, you love the fact that he's going to bring the food that you order, right? That doesn't mean you're going to invite him over your house. Right? You don't love your mechanic to the point where you want him, like, you like people to a certain extent of what they can offer you. And what I could tell you is that, you don't need to trust them 100%. Trust them 2%, he'll earn the other 98.
I like that.
And I would say the same thing goes for anyone that you're trying to follow. So not to make the show about GC, but I'm just telling you, like, it's something where I think there's a lot to lose by not listening versus by listening.
Right. Well, that's an important lesson right there. It's just essentially, the biggest takeaway, or I can tell you, like, for myself, when you said that, the biggest takeaway is find what you want and like in the situation, in the people.
Yeah.
Because in everything, people, situations, jobs, opportunities, there's always going to be negative, there's always going to be positive.
Right.
Be a positive extractor. Extract the positive for yourself. Use it for yourself. Get as much of it as you can from whatever situation you're going through, and then keep it pushing. You don't need to take everything. You can leave the bad and just take the good.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't ever invalidate wins. Like, people do that all the time. You find something that works that you like. You don't have to like all of it to dislike all of it. Just, I like this. This works for me. Work with that. You don't like something. Look. You don't got to deal with it.
Right, you don't even have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Just work with this.
Exactly.
So that's really good advice. So now, final question, and
Sure.
This one is my absolute favorite question. So let's imagine you wake up tomorrow and you don't know anything. Like, you are a blank slate. I mean, everything that you spent the last 16 years learning, gone. Relationships, gone. Like, all you know is your name. And actually, you don't even know your name. You just wake up tomorrow and
Newborn baby.
You're a newborn baby, but you're still in the same body, and that's it. You're just a blank slate, complete amnesia. However, you do have one piece of information in your mind. There's one piece of knowledge, one bit of wisdom that you know to be true, and for whatever reason, you're not questioning it. You're just taking it and you're running with it. What would you want that one piece of information to be?
So I want I'm literally, I can keep one thing, basically, you're saying.
You keep one thing, and like, you're not going to question, you're not going to ask yourself, like, why do I think this? Why do I believe it? You're just going to believe it without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt.
I'm a spiritual being. That's what I want to remember. As a spiritual being, you can't die. You can't be destroyed. You can't be stupid. You'll always persevere. So what I would want, if I could have one thing, is I'm a spiritual being. I'm not just a body. And with that, I can go restore everything else.
I love it. I love that. That's a great answer.
Thank you. No, that's the truth. This is what I want, That's what I want. Great question.
Thank
Love
you.
the question.
Thank
Made me
you.
think.
All right, guys, I'll follow up with you in the future, but that's your introduction to JB. JB, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
And for people that want to check you out, like, where should they go? What's the best way to get in contact with you, to find you, and to learn more about what you're doing?
So on every social platform, it's JB Bolvadin, at JB Bolvadin. You can reach out to me, message me. I'll get back to you. If you have any questions for me, you can reach out, and that'll be the fastest way for us to connect.
Awesome. So guys, reach out to him, hit him up. If he has time, I can guarantee you he'll respond. And soak up that knowledge, soak up the wisdom, soak up the information, because it's coming from a true place.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Of course.